All right. So joining me tonight is a guy that I would call probably a personal friend at this point. I mean, we've talked basically daily for months at this point. He's helped my channel behind the scenes in many ways, more ways than I could probably name at this point. But I'm definitely excited to talk to the man himself, Logan Husk. So without further ado, I definitely want you to introduce yourself in your own words, and then we'll get into detail here in a bit.
All right. Yeah, my name's Logan Husk, as he mentioned. I live out in Massachusetts. Um, some of you may know, some of you may not know. It is in the Northeast. It's always either cold, raining. You never know. I'm 21. This is my second year in semi-pro. He'll be getting into that later on. Um, all I do is constantly work and then play football.
Definitely. Definitely. So, at what age did you get involved with football? And I mean, what inspires you at this point to play and work and do all the things that you do?
So, I didn't actually start football until high school. I did sports in middle school. I moved a lot, so I couldn't really stay into sports. It was always changing. I ran track. I did cross country in middle school. But I always played, backyard football. I played QB for a while with friends. It was actually freshman year I started out playing soccer. I played soccer for 2 weeks. Um, I got too many red flags. They, knocking people over, all that flopping. That's not allowed in football or soccer. So there was actually the head coach at the time. He was at the game, and he said I should come out for football. Well, at the time, I mean, my parents were like, "No, you can't play football because injuries." And then the coach was like, "No, come to practice. I'll talk to your mom." I started playing football. I was like, "Coach, if you can convince my mom, sure, go ahead. Good luck." So then that's actually when I started playing was freshman year. And then I played throughout high school off and on.
That's nuts. Man, all this time of talking, I did not know that you got involved in football so late in life. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to end up playing football?
I mean, mostly I like the contact. I like, injuries happen. It's part of football. But being able to let out aggression without getting in trouble,
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
good.
I could definitely see that.
You can't go fight people in the street, but you can go hit someone on the field.
That's for sure. That's for sure. How has your motivation kind of changed or has evolved over time to keep you going through everything you've been through?
I mean, high school, that's really the only reason why I liked school at the time was because of sports. It helped a lot with everything else going on in life. Same thing today with work and all the craziness. Obviously, then at the end of the week, I can look forward to the game, um, working out, all that. I haven't really been able to work out as much recently. I'm hoping that changes soon. But
Gotcha.
no one wants to work no more, so.
Oh man, preaching to the choir on that one. My last job, I was a manager, so yeah, I've been through all those hiring nightmares that are
Everyone
going
told
on
you,
right
oh,
now.
it must be great to be manager. I'm like, no.
No, definitely not, because you end up picking up the slack.
Yep.
So in high school, we kind of talked about it off camera today. You bounced around a bit. You start in Rhode Island, attending Portsmouth High School before moving on to Middletown High School. What prompted the switch of schools, and how did this affect you as a player?
So the way it works there, even though it's on, I'm not sure how much you know about Rhode Island. There's like Quinnipiac Island, so there's Newport, Middletown, and Portsmouth. My family just ended up getting a different house in Middletown, so therefore I was required to go to Middletown. Portsmouth and Middletown were actually rivalries, so it was great being in Portsmouth. And then when I went to Middletown, Portsmouth hated me. Um, but it was hard in some ways just because you're used to your team and your friends, and then you go to a different school. For me, I didn't mind, like, it helped meeting new people. That's why, like, I can go up to a stranger and not care. Um, but it was still hard sports related, sports wise, just because it's new people, new coach. They might know you a little bit, but then now you're competing all over again. So continuously competing, it was good. I mean, it's just like now in semi-pro, you're always competing. So in the long run, it did help out moving. Um, I'm just so used to moving at this point.
Yeah, I could definitely see that because you prefaced my next question perfectly. I mean, after your sophomore season, you end up moving from Rhode Island all the way to Oregon. I mean, how did this end up happening? Was it another job situation?
Yeah,
Housing?
it was another job for my dad, so we ended up going out to Oregon. I played out there, and then funny enough, then I moved back out to the East Coast in Massachusetts, and they moved to Florida.
Interesting. So, how did that occur? I mean, was that right about your senior year, mid-senior year?
That was it was in the sophomore years when I moved out to Oregon. Because then I started playing football again junior year. Sophomore year was when I switched from Portsmouth to Middletown mid-season, so I didn't even finish really. I didn't think it was worth it at the time to continue playing for Middletown because of the rivalry. So then moving out to Cottage Grove, Oregon, I played. Um, I still have a couple of buddies that I talked to from that team actually. It was good. Oh, sorry, my bad. Good program over there. I know it's changed a little bit, but it was wild. And then senior year happened. I did have a couple injuries during track season. Um, it actually started freshman year. I injured my hamstring, and then throughout high school it was an ongoing thing where I just kept injuring the hamstring. I mean, I got it checked a couple of times, and it just came down to they were like, "You won't be able to play again." So everything going on senior year, I had stuff going on at the house. I ended up moving out at 17. So at the time, I was just like, "Yeah, nothing's gonna go on with football." Um, so I just was like, originally I was gonna drop out, and then my principal was actually my coach. He was the head coach. He's like, "No, you're not." I said, "Yes, I am. I'm about to be 18. I'm dropping out." He's like, "No, you're not." And then what it came down to was he said that, hey, Lisa Rader up. It came down to if you leave, you have to be in another program. So I ended up finishing high school before all my other friends did. I just finished online just to get a degree, and then I ended up leaving Oregon. Um, had to do what I had to do to survive the time. It all worked out.
That's crazy. I mean, um, how do you believe this helped or hindered you as a player? I mean, when it comes to, I mean, you talked about it, you were on and off the field in terms of, you weren't quite sure if you wanted to play again in terms of the other schools, and then you go to Oregon, you play, and then you're talking about dropping out and you end up finishing online. How did that all affect you as a player?
So even the times I did play during the seasons, I was always utility player. So I never. It sucks now sometimes just because I would never played in one position the whole career. But then also helps out going to a team because they'll say they need a safety or they need this, and I can bounce around wherever's needed. Um, but like focusing on one position, that's what I haven't had yet. So that's what I'm trying to do now. Obviously, I told you before about CFL combines again next year, things like that. It's better to master one position.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, obviously it does help being all over the field in some ways, but then other teams might not see it that way.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it definitely helps to have a home, so to speak, for a position, and then having that secondary, talents to play other places definitely is. It's a value as well. But I definitely understand what you're saying there. Um, when you moved to Oregon a couple years before you got there, they had won 2 4A state championships. Or sorry, they won one and finished in 2016 as a runner-up. Were you excited to attend that school as a player?
Oh yeah, I was very excited. There was a couple of people that actually the season after that they were seniors. and I ran track with him. As we were 4A champions in track. It was a great team. Following my junior year, that's when a lot of those good players were leaving. We had new guys coming up, so it's kind of a building program. But I mean, yeah, I'm not sure if you've seen some of their games from that year. They had some dogs on that team.
Interesting. I'll have to look into it. I have not seen any of the games that.
There's one player, Jacob Woods.
Okay.
Jacob Woods. He was part of. I ran the 4x1 with him.
Really?
The guy was crazy.
Okay. I'll have to look him up. The name sounds really familiar, like I should know him from somewhere. So during your time at CGHS, you played for Gary Roberts. Robert had spent 12 years at the school. What did you learn from Coach Roberts during your time there?
He was great as a coach, as like working in the school, even outside, obviously, like outside the school. He was always there. If I needed something, I could just call him up. Like I said, graduating wise, he was the reason why I still graduated. So, I mean, on the field, he was our coach, but the way he coached, it was good and bad. You know, I like the coaches that are always hard. Like they don't just pat your back and give you that participation trophy. But I mean, other than that, he was still good guy. He knew what he was talking about. Uh, special teams was his favorite.
Interesting. I mean, I always talk about special teams because that's what really gets people into the league. I mean, ultimately, especially if you played at a small school or something like that, if you want to make it in any professional league, I mean, you got to play special teams. I mean, that's how you make a name for yourself. And then you go from there, either playing defense, offense, whichever position you end up deciding you want to play. But in 2020, your senior year, you deal with a coaching change to Polamalu, it was?
Yep.
What was it like going through this transition yet again? I mean, you've basically at this point you've had 4 different coaches during your time as a high school player.
It was ongoing. I mean, he had high expectations. Senior year, I didn't finish off just because everything going on at home. That was when I was ready to be out. But from other players, they said there was ups and downs. Obviously, first year coach there, he had stuff to learn. The players had to get to know him because they were used to Gary. So now it's a new coach. Who is he? Does he know what he's talking about? It's a whole building that trust with the players again.
Interesting. So 4 coaches, 4 schools. You graduate high school online. What led to your decision to ultimately still graduate and follow your coach's recommendations?
Well, it was more of like at the time, I had so many things going on in my head. Do I think it was like now that I think about it, and I always think about it now, do I think he was lying that I had to graduate? Maybe. But he was looking out for me at the end result, and he was my coach, so that's why I did it, because I'm like, he wouldn't lie to me. He's looking out for me. I remember sitting in the principal office with him and the school officer, and they even said, Logan, we've seen people like you, and it doesn't end up well. So I remember after graduating online, I actually went in with the diploma, and I said, next time that there's someone in my position, don't tell them that it doesn't end well. Tell them that there's, still a chance.
That's awesome. Proving people wrong even back then in high school. So you talked about it a little bit earlier. At just 17 years old, you end up leaving home and you begin to fend for yourself. I mean, did you remain in the game the entire time, or was there a hiatus?
Nope. So at the time when I was out of the house, it was just, okay, do what I have to do for money, figure out what else I'm going to do. I started working for someone that actually was on the football team. He worked for security sales, Vivint. So he's like, oh, come out when you turn 18. We go on trips, and it was out of Utah. So I ended up just saying, okay, let's go. It was paid for, all that. It was good at first, and then I started seeing, it's like they trap you in it. So then I ended up moving out to Massachusetts. Um, Found a place to live. Started working one job. It was only part time. Obviously, couldn't make the bills. Got another job, and it was just starting working 16, 17 hours a day. And then I did what I had to do until I found a better job. And then I got into security for another company. Did that for a little bit. Used that resume to get into another security company. And then I've been doing that ever since. I started working 100 hours. I started in the company, and that's how I kind of was like, okay, look, pay raise, position, all that. So like even now, every time I have an issue or whatever, I always say, even though he's my boss, really I'm his boss.
That's hilarious.
And
So,
I tell him all the time.
so talk to me about your time away from the game. How long did it take for you to realize that you couldn't stay away from football?
So it was actually kind of funny because it was another buddy of mine that I working with. He knew I was in football, and he was like, "Bro, come out to," and it was the Wildcats. He was like, "Come out to the Wildcats, this and that." I'm like, I didn't know anything about it. Knew nothing about semi-pro, this and that. Knew nothing about it. And then one day I was like, you know what? Okay. And then it was actually the head coach Dennis. I started messaging with him back and forth, and they already had tryouts and everything. And I was like, oh no, I missed it. And he just told me, he said, come out to the next practice. And then so I went to the next practice, and then he was like, okay, what size jersey are you, pants, and all that. And then started playing from there. With that team, obviously, I mean, it was a good team last year. Um, Went undefeated until championship game. Lost in championship game, and that was like, wow, just lost that first year. Like I was all excited, oh, we're gonna get a ring, this and that. Um, but as you, Tyus, that you also talked with, he was on that team. They had tons of athletes on the team.
I
So
believe it.
that was the first year that was on the Wildcats in the ECFL. So that's
Okay.
what I got back into football was last year.
So talk to me about semi-pro football. I mean, we always hear about athletes who are paid to play football, but semi-pro athletes typically are not paid, correctly?
Correct. I mean, there's some. I mean, obviously, there's some teams they might pay you here and there, but there's no really contract to be paid. So you have like this year in the ECFL, you have your dues to pay. So I think it was 200 or 300, one of that. I don't even remember now. But that covers like insurance and uniforms. Um, Owners wise, like the owners of the team, they have fundraisers or sponsors that help with field costs, or if they have a connect. That's why we'll play at high schools a lot of times. They'll have a connection with the high school in the city. So yeah, you're paying to play. Games you're going to, you're paying the gas. If it's far away game, you want to stay in a hotel, paying the hotel. Obviously, the guys are good. Like if you're going far game, I know last season, my buddy Anthony, we would always get a hotel, um, and we'd split the cost. It's still a good time to bond with your teammates. Um, but yeah, you're paying to play and everything that comes with it.
That's crazy. I mean, so there's not only are you putting your body on the line, but you're paying somebody else to allow you the opportunity to do so. And I mean, from a player's perspective, why would you do that? I mean, like what drives you to do that?
Because at the end of the day, you're still playing football. I mean, you're still playing competitive teams um, every week. I know I know you watched some of that game last week. That was a crazy game. So it's stuff like that, just continuing to play. It is broadcasted, so
Mm-hmm.
just being able to have that helps moving up. So that was the whole reason really I went from NEFL to ECFL, because the first year I didn't know any of the other teams, and then I started doing research, hearing from other people, and it was actually my buddy Anthony. He was like, "Yeah, come here," and I'm like, "Okay, let's try it out." And
There
then
you
so
go.
far, it's another great team. Love the guys. Um, yeah, I couldn't ask for better teammates. We always got each other's back, and, and it's fun out there. Sidelines, everything.
Absolutely. So what I was going to get at is the fact that you're looking for film to get up to a higher level. But part of that, I mean, like you said, part of it is staying close to football. I mean, a lot of you guys, you're playing for the passion of the game. And I mean, that more than anything deserves respect because, like I said, you're putting your body on the line for your dream, for your passion. That's amazing. So, I mean, like a lot of people just simply wouldn't do that. You know, they're like, it's just not in their realm of thinking at this point. But I mean, basically, you kind of worked your way up into it. In 2022, you moved from the Wildcats, signing in with the ECFL and the Northeast Bulls. Did you know how good this team could be when you signed there? I mean, did you see it immediately?
So actually, funny enough, my buddy Anthony from the Wildcats went to another team, the Northmen. It was a new team. It was actually single A. He said, "Oh, come out here. It will be a great experience." It was a brand new team. People coming out of high school. I was like, okay. Um, Not gonna get into it much, but it was just things weren't working out. The ones coming out of high school, this and that. There's just all this stuff that I wasn't gonna be a part of. Anthony actually ended up leaving to go to the Bulls, and I stayed. I think a couple weeks later, he was like, "Come to the Bulls." And it was the same thing as the Wildcats. They already had tryouts. People were cut. So I was like, I don't know. Sure enough, I went out to practice with him. And then ever since then, it's been a great year. It is second year team too. Um,
Interesting.
so the owners, coaches, they're great. Yeah, there's arguing and drama just like any other time, but the way they fight through it, at the end of the day, when it comes game day, they're all together. One goal.
There you
Get
go.
the green.
There you go. I like that. I like that. So you guys are heading into week 7, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if correct me if I'm wrong, your record's 5-1 now after this past weekend.
Yep. 5-1. League wise, or not league wise, but like division wise, still undefeated. But so the two games that last week and the this coming week, it's playing a higher division, AAA teams. Um, Looking forward to it. It's more. I feel like it's more competitive. Like you saw the Admirals game. I don't remember watching a better football game. I remember like texting you real quick, like, you gotta watch this. It's coming down to the last minute.
Yep.
Of course, that's the best part about football. Anything can happen.
Agreed.
Should we have won that game? Definitely. Um, Things happen. At the end of the day, we were supposed to be blown out. I feel like offense did their part. Defense definitely did some crazy stuff out there.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So talk to me a little bit about this division system. I want to know more about it. We've talked about, discussing it off camera and it just never happens. So now everybody can, understand how it works.
So for ECFL, even though the commissioner has like coastal, eastern, all of this, we just say single A, double A, triple A. Really, what it comes down to is single A are usually newer teams, like you just came into the league. You might have 20, 25 guys. You don't really know where your guys are at, so it's like the beginning stage. Um, Double A, you might have the numbers already, or you might have moved up from single A. It all depends. Triple A, Some people might know like the Shamrocks, Marlboro Shamrocks. They won nationals last year. So they're solid teams. They have the numbers. They have the athletes for it. Um, but at the end of the day, it's like there's AAA teams that should be AA teams, and there's single A teams that could be AA teams. But they just look at the numbers wise. I think it's really hard to understand. Us players, I've tried to ask the commissioner. Is there's always a meeting in the beginning of the year where they decide where the team, like what the schedules are, where the teams are going. Um, but like for us, we feel like we're AAA team. Even though we're AA, we feel like we're AAA because we play well against the Admirals, and the Admirals are a well-known AAA team. So rankings really, to me, they don't really mean anything. It's just based off schedules. Obviously, you don't want a brand new team playing a team that's been in the league for 20 years.
Sorry. Basically, what they're looking for is teams that are established and have shown over a length of time that they're solid and that they can compete at that level.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
does it always work out? Obviously, no. I mean, there's AAA teams, like I said, that should be AA or lower. No wins, all that. They might have been good last year or the year before, or they might not have. So it's really confusing to a lot of us of how the teams are ranked. Most of us really don't care. We're just like, we're here to play football.
Yeah, exactly. So along the way, you were told by doctors that you would never play football again at one point. Talk to me about basically how, in true Logan Husk fashion, you basically threw up your middle finger and told them, I'm playing football whether you guys like it or not, and then went to work proving them wrong. Tell me about the injury, your pain level on a day-to-day basis, and what docs have said since.
So it was eighth grade that originally hurt the hamstring, and that was in track season. Basically, what happened after school, we're going to a track meet, and something happened with the bus situation where we didn't have a bus. So we had to call parents, come pick us up to bring us to the meet. I called my dad. He brought me and two other buddies. I mean, breaking all kind of traffic laws, whatever. He got us there. Getting out of the car, I knew I had the 100-meter first. I had the 100 meters first. I'm putting on the spikes in the car, and they're calling for the runners to go right when I get out of the car. So I didn't have no warm up or stretch yet. I'm like, okay, it's cool. It's 100 meters. It's all good. I go do that one. Win the heat, no issues. I asked the coach, I said, okay, when's the 200 meter? And she's like, oh, not until a little bit. Go sit down, drink some, water, and then go stretch. I said, okay. I go sit down. I think they had, I can't remember I think they had one of the hurdles right after the 100 meter. Right after that, they called the 200 meter. Mind you, I didn't stretch yet. Nothing. Still haven't done any of that. I'm just sitting there getting ready. So then I go and do a 200 meter. Right when I go around the curve after the first 100, I feel a little pull in my leg, right in the hamstring. I'm like, that feels weird. I just kept running, finished the race. Tons of pain. I collapsed right after the finish line, bawling my eyes out, lots of pain. I don't know what's going on. That was really the first injury. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I remember getting on the golf cart. Everyone that knows me, I absolutely do not like going to the doctors. That's why earlier when I made the joke, oh, sorry, I can't make it on, I said, no, I'm calling an ambulance. But I hate going to the doctors. I just do. And most of it is probably because of the whole, oh, yeah, you won't be able to play again. So, I mean, I got it checked out. I had microtears in the hamstring. And it wasn't just one tear. It was throughout the hamstring. I had a tear here, I had a tear there. I waited a couple months. I'm like, yeah, I'm all set. Go run on it again, feel it pull again. I'm like, oh, I'm really not going to be able to run again. Um, so I think even today, it still gives me issues once in a while. When I start running too much, I'll still feel it. I try to stretch it out, but that also didn't help me. Being in high school, it all depends on your coaches. So, like going into high school, oh, just stretch it out, stretch it out. Well, mind you, if it's already torn and you're stretching it out, you're just tearing it more.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when I started putting all this together, I'm like, what? You're telling me to stretch it this whole time? I was probably tearing it more this whole time.
Probably.
So I mean, the 2 years that I didn't do any sports, just worked. It probably did help it heal up. I still have other injuries. I mean, I hurt my rotator cuff too. High school, I never really got it checked. I was just like, oh, it'll go away. You know, put some ice on it, take some ibuprofen.
Well, if you make the CFL, you're gonna have to get over being, around doctors all the time. Just
Oh, I'm
saying.
a doctor now.
Okay.
My doctor's great. I go to him right before a game, get my whole body cracked. That I'm just like, wow.
Gotcha. So are you into like the Middle Eastern medicine at this point?
I mean, whatever works.
Understandable. Understandable. My mom worked for a chiropractor for a very long time, so we did into all the acupuncture and adjustments and stuff. And it is amazing how you feel better after, get adjusted and stuff.
I'm just like, wow.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm interested. That's interesting. I'm surprised we haven't talked about that off camera yet. So as you know, man, I could probably sit here talking to you nonstop. I mean, we talk all the time off camera, but I really don't want to leave Manny waiting too much longer. I mean, we do still have quite a bit of time, but I want you to basically run over what your plans are for the future, where you see yourself being in, the end of next season.
So right now, obviously, I'm finishing off this season with the Bulls. Um, Off season, I'm still considered young, so like everyone else on the team's older, 24, older, whatever. So off season, I really want to, get in the gym, get the private coach, go over, find the main position. That's my whole goal. Um, Work on that position. I know the CFL will probably still have open tryouts again next year. They did have it this year down in Florida and other places. Uh, Go out to it, see how it goes. Um, if nothing happens of that, I'll continue. I mean, with Northeast Bulls next year, and I'll just continue to get better. And then look, I do have an agent also, so I'm just continuing to do what I can to get better. Um, and that comes with also work, trying to figure out work, whatever I have to do with that. I mean, if it continues like this, I don't know. Might find a job.
I don't blame you there.
Doing 80 hours, it gets tiring. It's not obviously not good for the body either.
No doubt.
I can only drink so much Red Bull.
No doubt. Yeah, we won't get into that subject. Although, hey, Red Bull, if you want to drop us a sponsorship, I'm just saying we would be more than game. You'd save me a lot of money every week. But with that being said, I'm very curious. How would you rate the coaching that you receive in the ECFL? I mean, are they legit coaches? They're doing it to get up to the next level themselves. They take it seriously.
Like moving up, I don't really know that part of it, but taking it serious, they definitely do. At the end of the day, we have players. There's players in the league. I'm trying to think of like the nicest way to play. There's players in the league that are very hot headed. So when they're not getting the whole game playing time, it's like start throwing fits. And it's like instead of being a team player, like yeah, you could be good, but not every good player plays the whole game. it's okay to come out, get a breather so that you're fresh going back in. So coaches, I've had coaches where they'll keep those players in the whole game. Like even high school, if a player's dad goes to the coach or knows the coach, well, his son's playing. And
Yeah, yeah.
a lot now. Even I'm just like, what are you doing?
I can see that. I can definitely see that.
Like, the coaches have game plan. They're following that game plan. I mean, even the last game with the Admirals, our coach Dom, he was getting yelled at by everybody, and he just stuck with it, continued doing what he's doing, and not everyone would do that.
Interesting. But
I hope he doesn't walk off after this game, but no, it was all part of the game plan. He stuck by it, and that's how you know he knows what he's doing. He is 100% confident. He knows what's going on, and
there you
you
go.
got to be coached by that. If you're like 50%, like, oh yeah, let's try this out. Maybe it'll work. I don't really know, and I don't care. Then okay, why do I want to be with you?
Understood. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, you want a coaching staff that's going to lead you guys. That's their job, not vice versa. So that makes a lot of sense. I mean, talk to me about how your guys' training camp goes. When do you guys report? I mean, is it what we would imagine it would be for a regular training camp for everybody?
So before the season, obviously I started like a few weeks right before the season started with the Bulls. Um, I don't really know much how theirs went. I can figure that out, of course. But I do know they had, I can't remember what it was called, but they were having like 4 hour practices, 6 hours, I think maybe even six, I can't remember. Um, but it was just constantly doing drills, pushing you to your limits, seeing who quits, seeing who doesn't. So they had stuff like that. Um, Other teams, I mean, you would have practice Wednesdays, Saturdays, before games. Now we have practices on Wednesdays and then games on Saturdays. Practices are obviously, because everyone's working, it's a hit or miss. Um, but that's the best. That's the best they can do. I mean, coaches work too. Sometimes coaches have work that day, but at least there'll be someone there. Um, I mean, at the end of the day, to me, if you got players that aren't working like on a Thursday, plan something on your own. Head up a coach, ask him what the game plan is. Go out to the field, practice what you can. I mean, there's always something that you can do to get better. You don't always have to have a coach there.
Agreed.
Don't hurt each other.
Agreed. So for anybody watching, please hit that like button. That helps push Logan out to more viewers so more people can hear his story because it's definitely unique. Not a lot of players jump straight from high school into playing semi-pro ball and, essentially paying their way to play. I mean, I'm still blown away at your dedication for football, man. I mean, paying your way to play football on an every week basis and then, working the kind of hours that you do before you end up playing a game. It's insane. I mean, I've talked about it a lot of times before, but this is definitely one of those times that I definitely want to highlight it again. Shout out to BS3 Network who is tuning in. I appreciate that. That is definitely a channel you want to check out on YouTube as well. They've got content of all sorts, not just football, not just sports. So if you're in the chat right now, if you got any questions for Logan, we've got at least another 15 minutes of his time. So if anybody's got some questions to ask, now would be the time. But without anybody else asking questions, I'm sure I can shoot some stuff at you. So we already talked about the coaching, the training camp. What are some of the resources the team provides you with to try and advance yourself as a player?
So they do have obviously the film. There was like just the last game actually. I think he was the offense coordinator from Clemson that the coach knows. He was actually out there to hand offense and defense player of the game. So they do have connections. There was a connection at the beginning of the year. with college scholarships. You like write an essay, all that, and there was one player that actually got that. So they offer that, they're trying to help the ones coming out of high school to continue their career. But the league itself, obviously, it's a known league by others. So like our team's sponsored by Hooters. Other teams like the Shamrocks, because they're on that national stage, they have sponsors. So there's always connections no matter where you go. You always, what I find out, you always meet someone.
Interesting. So your guy CT Locker Room Live's tuning in, of course. I figured he would come through a bit at some point. So shout out to him. If you haven't checked out his content, definitely do. He's on Facebook Live quite often. I think it's every Friday night, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Friday nights, Mondays.
Definitely. So he'll
time with him.
Absolutely. He's very no holds barred. So definitely want to check that out. I mean, there's been some interesting situations. I've only caught 2 or 3 of the lives, but every single one's very entertaining. That he definitely has that. I'm sorry, what was that?
Jerry Springer of football.
Now that you say it, I could totally see that, and it's funny, but it's not in a bad way. Like
not in a bad way. But
absolutely.
Players, what do you have to say?
Exactly. So yeah, appreciate you too, man. We're always sharing each other's stuff because hey, there's enough room for both of us to succeed in this world. So we're kind of growing ourselves together. So we talked about a bunch of stuff at this point. I'm basically kind of losing track of my thoughts, but sponsorships. If somebody wanted to get involved with sponsoring your team, how would they go about doing that?
They would hit up the owner, Northeast Bulls. It's on Facebook.
Okay. So if they contact the Facebook page, they're contacting the owner himself?
Yep. It's Northeast Bulls. Bull Wade is also another, like Bull Wade, but I would just go Northeast Bulls.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. That's great. So if you want to help support semi-pro football players and help support their dreams to get to the next level, definitely go check out the Northeast Bulls, as well as many of the other ECFL teams. There's teams across the state, basically. So check it out. And definitely, if you can, try and sponsor one of the teams because you're definitely sponsoring somebody's dreams at the end of the day. So talk to me about the league. I mean, like I said, we've talked about training camp. We've talked about, what they've provided for you as a player. I mean, would you recommend it to other players in your position?
I definitely would. I mean, there's plenty of leagues. Obviously, there's around here, NEFL, New England Football League, ECFL. There's pros and cons to each one. Honestly, for me, ECFL way better film, better treatment. I feel like it's organized better too. New teams obviously always coming in. That's why you never know. Like I was talking about single A, double A, all that. There's always new teams coming in. But if you love to play football, might as well continue it. There's people coming out of high school, and then I've seen 40-year-olds playing.
Really?
And I'm like, at 40, I don't think I'll be moving like that.
But they're actually out there and competitive?
They're out there competing.
Interesting. That's awesome, man. That's interesting to hear. I mean, out there running around with a bunch of 22-year-olds. So I'll have to try and find some of those guys at some point. So if you know anybody who's interested in getting on.
I will make sure to share.
Definitely. So, I mean, you basically got another 10 minutes. Is there anything you want to talk about that we haven't covered already? I know that's a lot, but
I know. I mean, we covered a lot.
What's the score of the game?
Right now, 20-0.
Is it the Raiders winning?
Yep.
I kind of felt that was going to happen.
I didn't think it was going to be that bad, But
Yeah, not me neither. But I mean, I would assume first week of the season, Hall of Fame game, you're gonna pull starters pretty quick.
I got it. Yeah, I think I told you. Yeah, I told you I went to the Pats training camp. It
How
was
was
good.
that?
It was good. I mean, we'll see how it goes this year. I mean, practice is one thing. You know, playing against your teammates. When it's another team, could be way different.
True. Very
But
true.
Mac Jones definitely been putting work in.
Interesting.
Oh
Well, I keep forgetting that you're a Patriots fan, so I'll have to get Ariel back on here and have you guys have a chat together.
yeah.
She's technically one of my co-hosts. She's just not on here quite often. She works about like you do, basically 16 hours a day all the time, and she's running a company. So, yeah, definitely one of those situations where she's on here when she can be. But, yeah, like I said, 10 more minutes, man. Anything else you got?
Honestly, no, but I can let you go get prepared for the next one. I know it's gonna be good.
Oh, I mean, I'm good either way. Like I said, I could talk to you all night. Honestly, I didn't realize I ran through my questions that quick. Honestly, that went really fast. I apologize. Normally, I let people talk a little bit more, but here we were talking about how we wouldn't run out or we would run over the time, and we're like 10 minutes short, and I'm already out of questions and stuff.
How do you
But
think the Eagles are gonna do?
oh man, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. I'm hoping improvement on last season, 11-6, maybe 10-7, somewhere in that range. How do you think the Patriots are going to do this season?
Definitely undefeated. Just kidding.
Yeah, I don't know about all that. Mac Jones is good, but he's still a little young.
We just need Brady back.
I would agree, but I don't think that's happening, man.
Nah, I would say they'll get 8 or 9 wins.
See, that's fair. That's fair. I think that's actually kind of conservative. I could see them being a 10 or 11 win team as well. They're kind of like Philly. Like they could be really good. They could be
It could
iffy.
go. Yeah, that's the thing. It can go either way.
Exactly.
I wish I had more time to go more into their practices. Um, it was a hot day too, so I watched some of it and I ended up leaving.
Understandable. Definitely understandable. I mean, yeah, no thanks. I'm a little old to be doing that stuff, I think. As far as like practicing, I don't think I could handle that anymore.
I actually got yelled at by security because I had my phone up like this, and apparently the first week of training camp, someone videoed an hour of practice and uploaded it online.
Oh wow.
Super tight, like no phone recording, all this. So if your phone was up like mine was, they come running over to you. I'm like, what's going on?
That's hilarious. I mean, I feel like they should be watching for that given their, history, but I mean, that's a little bit much. I guess if somebody's already posting up their practice film.
I guess they don't like the Patriots.
Who knows?
Trying
Maybe
to
it
put
was a
their
Jets
team
spy.
up.
Who's your pick for the Super Bowl this year? I know that's a long way off.
I haven't even done my research yet on all the teams right now.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of movement this year.
I mean, I think it'll still be the same teams that are usually. I don't think there'll be that underdog. Like I don't think the Jets are gonna go. Just
Really,
I,
Jets look pretty stout this season.
I would love for them to, but I
So
don't.
let's see. Off the top of my head, we're talking probably Buffalo and New England from the AFC East. Probably, man, AFC West is going to be a battle this year. Who do you think out of the West?
Of course, the Rams.
Yeah, yeah, the Rams from the NFC West for sure. What about the AFC West? Broncos, Raiders,
Hey,
Chiefs.
maybe the Raiders. Maybe the Raiders.
Oh man, interesting. Okay, so we got the Raiders, the Patriots, and the Bills in the playoffs so far. The Rams. Let's see, who else could we go with? What about the AFC South? We got the Jaguars, the Texans, the Colts. Um, I'm blanking a team off the top of my head.
Um, who's the other team? I think.
Tennessee Titans. Titans. That's what it is. My bad.
I think it'll come down Colts.
Okay, interesting. I mean, they got a solid team. Matt Ryan. That'll be interesting to watch.
My boy Quiddy Pay.
Oh yeah, that's your guy.
He went to Hendricken in Rhode Island.
Oh yeah, what? Didn't you run against him in track?
Yeah, that dude was big, and I'm like, what is this dude doing the 100-meter for? And I'm like, oh, he's fast.
Well, that explains why they're wanting him to come off the edge, I guess.
He was in the 4x1. I mean, he was a running back too at Hendricken.
Just one of those players, kind of like you, where the coach just wants to get him on the field.
I would not want to be in front of
Yeah, I don't blame you. That'd be like Derrick Henry.
him. Yeah, no.
That's ironic that we forgot the Titans out of the AFC South and Derrick Henry.
Derek.
What about the North? We got Steelers, Bengals, Browns, and Ravens.
It'd be between Steelers and Ravens. One of those. I mean, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, but the Bengals won the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, well, that's a one-year thing.
Wow. Okay, that's kind of a hot take. Let's see. Okay, so we've already done the NFC West. What about the NFC East? The Cowboys, the Eagles, the Redskins. Whoa, I'm sorry, Commanders, the Giants. Sorry.
You know, the Commanders, gotta give them something to hope for.
I guess.
Cowboys are good on Madden.
Well, I'm sure. But that was before the injuries to the wide receiver position, I'm sure.
That's one team I'm like, how are you so good? But that's where the joke comes from. If the Cowboys win the Super Bowl, just turn off the Xbox.
Yeah, basically, exactly. Shoot, okay, so we did the East, the West, the South. So NFC South, Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Atlanta. I'm forgetting the fourth team from them now.
Gotta give it to the Bucks.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be my vote too. And then we got the NFC North.
The Dolphins. That should be interesting for them though this year.
The Dolphins, yeah. Definitely. And then NFC North. What about the Packers, Vikings, Lions, or Bears?
Packers. I mean, I don't see the Vikings maybe, but
I see that. Yeah, it'll be an interesting season. But yeah, the Packers, even with the drop off they've got at wide receiver, I don't see another team competing with them currently. I mean, even with the Vikings, the way they sit. But we are running up against the clock finally. But with that being said, if you had to pick one position, which would it be?
probably outside linebacker, or like the rover. So like doing safety and linebacker.
Okay, I could see that.
I mean, I like contact. I like chasing people too.
Absolutely. So for those of us watching, tell us about your measurables. I mean, how would you line up as a linebacker in, say, like the NFL?
Not near as big yet. Um, I have been eating a lot of food, so maybe that is helping. More. Um, so I'm right now I'm about 6 feet, uh, probably like 190, 195.
Okay. So yeah, I think at the NFL level, you probably have to put on like another 20 pounds to play linebacker. But I mean, safety slash linebacker.
Yeah, if I could hit the gym.
Yeah, understandable for sure. For sure. Well,
Also,
hopefully, if anything works out with these CFL workouts, you'll be able to focus on football for a while.
yeah, I mean that's really the next for now. It's the next thing I really started training for. Um, I mean, last time I heard about it, it was literally just, oh, that's in a couple weeks. I'm like,
Yeah, thanks for telling me now.
now that I know when and all that, I can really train for it.
Absolutely. Who's your agent?
So it's through the SWCC. Hold on one second. I think it's SW.
Man, this was pretty bad, dude. You can't even remember your agency? No, I'm just kidding.
No, it was like SWCC or something like that.
I'm totally kidding.
Yeah, his name's Cam. I've been off and on with him, really because of film. It's actually helping him out too because he's going to school for it. He's also in the army, so he's down in New York. So he's going to school for higher. He explained it to me. It was way over my head.
Gotcha.
So like I'll send him. He'll watch games. We'll talk once in a while. Right now, it's just mostly for me. It's having to get film.
Gotcha.
Break down the film, and that's what me and you were talking about before. Was like high school. I didn't know all that stuff really.
Yeah.
I wasn't told, like freshman year. Oh yeah, make sure getting film, put on huddle, um, go on NCSA. Get colleges started looking at you, all that.
Yep.
So I think now that people going in like freshman year, that's what they should know from coaches and whatever else. I mean, obviously bigger schools, they know all that.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe there should be an orientation class to how to be a football player or something. I know that sounds goofy, but it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But with that being said, I do have to let you go, man. I appreciate your time tonight. We'll have to do this again when I'm a little bit better prepared with like 25 questions since we ran through those so quick.
No worries. I appreciate you having me on. I've been looking forward to it. The last like 15 minutes waiting, I was like, wow, has it been an hour yet?
Well, I'm glad to hear it, man. I'm super glad to hear that. And we'll definitely have you back again. Like I said, I mean, we talk all the time off the camera. It's only natural that we would talk on the camera more often. So,
well, when you in CT locker room go sign a contract, make sure I'm there eating popcorn in the background.
definitely. Sounds good, man. Have a good night, man. And I'll definitely chat at you tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Have a great night.